What's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to talk you through the exact process that I use to sign a client that I'm saving 80 grand a year with some workflow automations. I'm going to talk you through the exact process of how I found the client, what he came to me with in the requirements document that he gave me, how I then took that document and turned it into a fully scoped project plan out in Miro, which I'll show you as well, and then a little bit into the exact make scenarios for how I've organized things and the exact make scenario that fit into the requirements in the scope that we talked about. So if you're an AI automation agency owner and you're just getting started, or you're hoping to work with clients and save them hundreds of thousands of dollars or thousands of dollars like this one, I think this will be really valuable for you, and I hope that you enjoy. Cheers. All right, so I wanted to talk through a case study for a client that I'm currently working with. We just finished up a couple phases of automations for him, workflow automations for him. And so I wanted to talk about the problem that he's experiencing before we worked together, what he had sort of come to me with, and show you directly within the screen here exactly what we did for him and the ROI that he's going to receive from these automations alone, which is going to be close to 80 grand this year just from automations alone. So a quick background on this client: he runs a YouTube video production agency. So he essentially runs around 13 different YouTube channels at a time and is producing anywhere from 10 to 15 YouTube videos every single week. He has a team of about 12 people, including himself, that has script writers. It has YouTube thumbnail designers, people that actually design the thumbnails for YouTube. He has video editors. He has video developers. He has a whole bunch of people who are using a whole bunch of different systems, which I'll get into in a little bit. And as you can imagine, it's a very, very manual process. And his goal is to go from 15 videos per week all the way up to 100 videos every single week. And just the organization alone for that type of growth and that type of project would be incredible. And so he knew that he needed automation. And so I actually found this client on Upwork. And so that's how we started working together. So what I want to walk you through now is sort of the overview for what he came to me with and what we did beyond that and how he's going to start to experience those benefits. So let's dive right in. So here, what I'm showing you now is actually the PDF that he came to me with of exactly what he needed automated. So this business owner was a lot farther along than a lot of the other business owners that I've spoken with, in that he knew exactly what his standard operating procedures were. And he knew, or he had an idea that he wants to essentially automate those SOPs. And so what he came to me with is this 25-page PDF that he sent me and said, can we automate this? And that's essentially where we started. And so as you can see, he had actually step by step gone through every single one of part of his workflow automations that him and his team do across editors, video producers, everything. And so if I kind of zoom in here, you can sort of see step one: when a new brand is added to our brand's Notion database, then create Google Drive folders. And you can see it just goes on and on and on. Create subfolders within that folder. For this specific job role, I want you to have a specific sort of role assigned to it, and it goes on and on and on. But essentially, all these automations are around organizing and ensuring that his project management systems are always in sync with his video and his production system. So his Google Drive is in sync with his Notion. He uses Notion to run the entire business, including his project management. He wants to make sure that is aligned with his Frame.io, which is his video editing software that him and his team use. And then all the way through to actually distributing the video completely, fully automated. And so he wants to automate the entire operational process behind his business. So I wanted to show you this as just sort of this is what we started with, right? It was just sort of a jumbled mess of words, SOPs, and they're not even exactly that tight. He wants some Slack notifications also to be sent to make sure people are updated. All of the typical things that you might see in an operations process. So this is what we started with, right? 12 steps, 25 pages of sort of a requirements document, if you will. this is what I came back with. So after reading that PDF, I came back and said, okay, let's get a little bit more clear on exactly what we're talking about here. Number one, so I understand as an automation consultant exactly what we need to do. And also secondly, so that he knows exactly what he means within that PDF, right? So that we're both aligned on exactly what this scope of work will look like. And so that we're a little bit more clear, right, on sort of like the first steps that we can take if we were to work together. So this is how this works. So I essentially took those 12 steps in the PDF and I outlined every single one of them with the following. Number one, I said, what is the automation? Let's sort of give it a name. Let's call this one the new brand folders. So essentially every time he adds a new YouTube channel, he wants to create a whole bunch of folders within his Google Drive folder system. So let's call it new brand folders. And then I want to understand, what are the platforms being used? So make.com in this scenario. And then what is the trigger, and what are the following actions that exactly need to happen when that trigger happens? So for instance, everything starts in Notion for him. So he has a database within Notion, a table called Our Brands. Every time that he adds a new brand to that database, he wants a whole bunch of folders to be created, right? Because that he was having to do manually, him or his operations people were having to do manually. And so then go and find in the Google Drive folder, check if it exists. If it doesn't exist, create the folder, and then create all of the subfolders associated with that underneath that folder, right? So that's an example of one of the 12 steps that I went through here to sort of map it out a little bit more. And then for each step, I also gave a complexity and a build timeline estimate. So for this one, complexity is low, medium, or high. And then a build timeline. So 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, however long I think it might take based on the complexity. And then most importantly is I actually estimated how much time savings this specific step of the automation might save him, right? And this is really important in the end because you can sort of see how it will all tie together in the end here. That's how step 1 works. I did the same for steps 2 through 12, right? So let's just walk through step 2 for a second. So this one was whenever he wanted to add a new video to a YouTube playlist, like within YouTube, he wanted an automation to bring that into his Notion as sort of a swipe file to say, oh, this is an inspiring video. I want to make one in the future just like this one. And that was taking a lot of time. And so I estimated that at 2.5 hours a week, right? Half an hour a day. And these are all very conservative estimates. We did that across all of the steps, right? You can see here all the way to step 12, right? And you can see they actually start to get a little bit more complex, medium to high complexity, 3 to 5 day build timeline, 5 hours a week time savings. So all of this summed up, we reviewed this together. We actually, what I like to do is we actually split this up into 2 phases. We started with steps 1 through 5 as phase 1 so that we can get started. It's a lot more easier to manage from a automation standpoint because we know exactly where we're starting. He's aligned, I'm aligned, and we don't, sort of overwhelm ourselves getting started right away. So we called this phase 1. Once we were done with phase 1, we kicked off phase 2, which is the remaining steps 6 through 12. And then just to sort of wrap everything up here, I sort of wanted to sum up what his savings would be. So all of these summed up total time savings for steps 1 through 12 are 42 hours a week, which is 168 hours a month. Even if they're paying someone $40 an hour, let's say, that's almost $7,000 saved every single month, which is 80 grand a year on these 12 automations alone, which is absolutely incredible just for automations. It really goes to show the power of automations when you start to layer them on top of each other. So that's the overview of what we did and how we scoped out this project. And now what I want to show you is actually within the make scenario, exactly what these things sort of look like. And I'll have to I'll explain just a couple of them just so you get an idea. So this is step 1. So this is also how I labeled them, phase 1, step 1. So the one that we were just talking about. So essentially, like I was saying before, anytime there's a new brand added in that brand database table, we essentially go through and iterate all of the ones that it finds. We search for if that folder exists already for that specific brand. If the folder already exists, we do nothing. We don't want to duplicate the folder. If the folder doesn't exist, we create that specific brand folder with the name of that brand that it pulls from the Notion row. Then underneath it, we create a whole bunch of different folders, one called brand assets, one called all projects, final short videos, final long-term videos, brand footages. And then at the very end, we take this brand folder link that we created that houses all of these subfolders, and we drop it back into that specific row in Notion, right? So that's phase one, step one of what we did. And then these start to get pretty sophisticated pretty fast. So this one is actually steps 3, 4, and 5 all combined. This is probably one of the meteor make scenarios, at least that I've ever seen. This is essentially watching a tasks database, which is a separate database than his brands one, and essentially is keeping in sync all of his project management with his frame.io and doing a whole bunch of things that he would have had to do manually. So this top branch here is essentially creating all of the folder structures for a specific video that he was, again, manually having to do. This middle branch is going in and creating the frame assets within frame, again, that he would normally have to do. This OpenAI module is actually using AI to validate that the folder doesn't already exist, so that it doesn't duplicate. And then this last branch is actually updating the Notion when all of these things are done, basically. And it's doing that, and it's split for 6 or 7 different video types that he has. They all have different folder types. They all have different folder frame.io structures. And these are all built this way. So again, this is just a sneak peek of how advanced these things can get. But it all starts with a PDF, a requirements document, an alignment, and then something like this where we can sort of go through and align on, here's all the things that we want to work on together. Here's all the things that we don't want to work on. And again, that leaves us with, for this client, 80 grand in extra profits, if you will, every single year, just from these automations alone, where he doesn't even have to look at it anymore. So he's going to be able to scale and hit that 100 videos per week very, very quickly. Because of everything the sort of the foundation that we're setting up here. And we're just getting started with this guy. He can do many, many more. So he's going to be much more profitable than all of his competitors. So hope this was helpful. I'm happy to chat about any of these if it makes sense. If you're interested to learn more, I'm happy to go through and even talk through some more of the make scenarios to dig a little bit more if there's any questions you have. A lot of these can get pretty advanced. And this is just, steps 3, 4, and 5. We've got a lot more. So happy to help. Thanks very much.